Is it ready? Okay. The CIC meeting of November 7th, 2022 is now called to order. Dennis, would you please call the roll?
Yes, welcome everyone. Elyville, Carla,
Here, and Dee Dee's out. She's on
She's out.
vacation.
Kanema, Linda,
Present.
I'm here also. Caulfield, John.
Here.
No Gaffney Lane, Hazel Grove, no. Sarah, I see is on Zoom.
I'm here
Sarah,
on Zoom. I
Great.
have COVID, so I'm doing you all a favor not being there.
get well. Okay, McLaughlin, Denise. Park Place, Steve.
Here.
And Bob. No Rivercrest? What?
And Will. Okay, something comes up.
McLaughlin. Oh, yes, please. Hi. Sorry.
Will,
It was the mask, I think. Okay.
And you're robbing them.
I believe that's it, when we have Adam and Christina.
Thank you.
okay, Rivercrest, I don't know if Emily Lisborn is listening. Doesn't look like she's on Zoom. And Bonnie Espy from South End is not here. Okay.
And it, Bob, is it Donna or Bonnie? From
I thought it was
South End.
Bonnie.
It's Bonnie.
It's Bonnie,
Bonnie
yes.
Espy,
Okay,
yeah.
just for correction.
Yeah. Okay. Our first presentation is, public comments. Do we have any public comments? I don't see anybody out here. Anybody on Zoom? No public comments. Okay, our first presentation is the Chamber of Commerce. Victoria Meinig, is she? There she is. Hi, Victoria.
Hello, how are you all? Sorry I missed you the last couple times. Had to take a little vacation, you know how that goes. Well, we're working hard over here at the Chamber, getting ready for some workforce work and getting ready to put out a small grant for our business here in Oregon City. And I'd like to invite all of you this week. We are also putting on an event called Grateful, Thankful, Hopeful. And this is a fun event. It's just really to thank everyone who supported us through COVID. It was a very different time. We had wonderful supporters who continued financially supporting us in all different kinds of ways without any expectation of anything. And they really helped us prosper and do really well. And so we just are going to have fun. It's going to be what we call a fundraiser. We're going to have a bingo, have chicken dinner. We are doing a little $10 raffle for a week in Tuscany. So I'd like to invite all of you, if you'd like to join us. It's going to be Saturday the 12th, beginning at 5 p.m. And we're prepping for Small Business Saturday, which is November the 26th. So we want you to think during these next 2 months, even if you shop online, please shop local. Again, Small Business Saturday, November 26th. So we're super excited to focus on our great little town and all the wonderful shops they have and how you can fulfill your holiday needs. And then, as I mentioned, hopefully by the beginning of December, actually maybe the end of November, we'll kick off a grant system. You'll hear a lot about that for our small businesses, 50 and under, hoping to give them a little bit of assistance as they get through the end of the year. So that's really all I have for right now.
Here you go. Use it.
Where is the celebration for November 12th? Where?
The celebration is going to be at the Pioneer Community Center.
Okay.
Tickets are $40, and you can check online at a really easy process to go ahead and pay for the tickets. So.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Victoria.
You bet, thank you, take care, good night.
Okay, our next presentation is by Jude Thaddaeus about the street tree minor code amendment. Welcome, Jude. He's one of our new planners.
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Jude Thaddaeus. I'm assistant planner for the planning division in the community development department at Oregon City. And okay, there we go. There's the slide presentation. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm here to talk today about the 2022 to 23 Street Tree Minor Code Amendment project. And just to introduce it, does your property have a street tree and a planting strip that's under 3 feet wide? Are you concerned about tree roots damaging the sidewalk and creating mobility hazards? Well, the 2022 to 23 Street Tree Minor Code Amendment is a project that may be here to help. So a little bit of background. Before 2001, in Oregon City, a lot of subdivisions were developed that had planting strips that were 3 feet wide or less. And oftentimes we saw trees that were planted in those planting strips that weren't the most appropriate species. And so oftentimes these street trees would die prematurely and or become hazardous in some other way, or their tree roots encroached the sidewalk and buckled and damaged the sidewalks, creating mobility hazards for sidewalk users, particularly for people with disabilities who had to navigate sidewalk lips and that sort of thing. The sidewalk damage also proved quite expensive to repair for property owners. And so the city has sort of responded to this issue in a few different phases. In 2001, the city changed its code to require developers to develop with 4.5 foot wide planter strips in new developments. And the Public Works Department also responded by creating a sidewalk assistance grant for people who struggled to pay for sidewalk repairs to fix their sidewalks when these kinds of things happened. The planning division also sort of updated the tree permitting process a little bit. We removed the fee that was inherent to the tree permit itself and required for sidewalk buckling in particular just a 1-for-1 tree replacement regardless of how big the tree that was removed was. And so those are some ways that we tried to be responsive to this particular issue, but more needed to be done. And back in June, the Natural Resource Committee recommended a new street tree species list that was calibrated for the size of planter strips to help kind of recommend trees that would reduce the risk of root encroachment so that they wouldn't buckle sidewalks going forward. That was one of the reasons, among a few others. And they also recommended changes to the city's code that I will specify in a moment. On August 17th, the City Commission then approved the new street tree species list. And so let me explain the changes. These are the proposed amendments to the code. But first, I should probably explain what the code requires currently. For property owners who are applying for a street tree removal permit, they are required, even when a tree buckles the sidewalk, they are required to replace the tree they're removing on a 1-for-1 basis, regardless of the caliber of tree that was removed. So if they do not wish to replant a new tree, they can pay a fee in lieu. This year it's $361 per tree. However, if the tree isn't buckling the sidewalk yet, then property owners have to replant a certain number of trees based on how thick the tree they removed was. It can be up to like 10 trees based on how thick the tree you removed was. And fees in lieu are paid on every tree that you have to replant. So it's a multiplier basically as well. And so the changes remove replanting requirements for planting strips 3 feet wide or less. So if owners don't want to replace the trees that they're removing because they're afraid they're going to buckle the sidewalk, they don't have to replace them. They also don't have to pay a fee in lieu of replacing them either. There's another small aspect of the code that we thought needed to be updated as well, to specify the replacement tree caliber size requirements for diseased or hazardous trees in planter strips 3 feet or above. That measurement wasn't explicit in the code, and so we wanted to take this opportunity to clarify that as well. However, these changes don't change the fundamental fact that we in the planning division encourage property owners to replant according to the new adopted street tree species list. And that, again, that street tree species list is sort of optimized to help reduce the risk of tree root encroachment. But for folks that are concerned about tree roots buckling sidewalks and that sort of thing, they have the option not to replant. However, we encourage that they do, and they can either replant according to the tree species list, or they can do a yard tree covenant. So if they've got a tree that's within 10 feet of the public right-of-way, that's not on their planter strip, they can declare that a street tree and record that with the county. So that's another option that they have. Anyway, the impacts that we anticipate from the street tree code change are that it will help prevent future damage to infrastructure like sidewalks, streets, and even public utilities. That it will help reduce the risk of future mobility hazards, particularly for people who have mobility challenges or people with disabilities. And it'll help reduce cost barriers to property owners that may need to remove trees that are hazardous in some way. So now that I've explained the project, there's a timeline that we plan to move this project along through. Right now, it's autumn 2022. It may feel like winter based on the weather, but it is still autumn. And autumn 2022, we have our public information campaign. We have monthly e-trails news blasts. We've got the quarterly trail news periodical. We've created a project page and a comments page on the city website. And we're making our rounds with the committees to gain feedback on this process. So next season, winter 23, we're having our legislative hearings, and then we expect in spring of 23 that the city commission will issue a decision on the street tree code updates. And like I said, the city website and comment page have been up for about a month now, and they've already registered a few comments. You can peruse those as you like. I will say that the link at the bottom of the page there is the exact link to the comment page on the city website. And if you remove the dash comments at the end of it, that's the actual web page to the street tree project itself. And so you can see that different people have different opinions on this, but they are absolutely free to express those opinions as well. And with that, I would like to take any questions, comments, concerns, or any general feedback that you may have.
I don't know if is that working?
Sounds like it is.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question. How long do people have to plant a tree once they have taken it out? Like just, it seems like there's a lot of empty spaces in front of pretty wide areas. I'm just curious.
It depends. So ordinarily, we issue replanting deadlines to help ensure new tree success. So we don't encourage people to replant during the summer, but right now we're issuing street tree permits with a replanting deadline of May 31st before the weather gets too warm.
Carla?
Just to let you know ahead of time, Emily's trying to get the link to get on Zoom. If you could get it to her right away,
Sure.
That'd be awesome. One thing I wanted to ask is, how much is there going to be a promotion to try to do more native trees? Obviously, ones that probably won't break up the sidewalk, but is there any plans for that?
I haven't looked at the street tree code to determine how many of those are native species versus non-native species.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that aspect has been factored into this whole thing, but I believe we have special.
Sure. I'm sorry, I was trying to multitask, and
No
I'm very bad
problem.
at that. Can you repeat the question again?
Can we try to promote native trees in terms that would be obviously not tearing up the sidewalk? You couldn't do necessarily a huge white oak
Sure.
eventually. And then the other thing would be, in our neighborhood, we're trying to promote native plants. So we've gotten permission to have some native plants in our tree grades, and maybe that's something in the future that could be a possibility as well.
Sure, I'll take that. The Natural Resource Committee spent all last year really looking at the tree list, so they were really looking at, of the native trees, what makes the most sense. And some native trees don't work for the three. So really, we relied on our Natural Resource Committee to kind of curate that recommended list, kind of balancing infrastructure and native trees. And so native trees that were not on the list were probably taken out by them or not supported because of their likelihood to buckle a sidewalk. I'm inferring, but I know they spent many, many months reviewing that through last year.
Yeah, cool. So is there a way to promote that as well when?
I would say two things. We always do our Friends of Tree work through, and that's a lot of our fee and lieu money goes to our Friends of Tree work. And I know Friends of Trees does like to do native trees, and that's, something I can pass on, but I do know they like to do that when they can. And so any of the work that we do, though, as always, you get the tree stock that's available, and so that we all working with what the nurseries have. But I do know Friends of Trees likes the native trees first when available. Yeah.
Linda?
In Kenema, we don't have sidewalks, much less 3-foot planting strips. But what we do have in Kenema, in the public or in the right-of-way owned by the city, is what's called a tree of heaven. It's kind of an invasive species. Is there any way that the city could come and look at that and remove that? Or is that something else who does that? I know it's not quite on here, but.
I know that in, excuse me, I swallowed the wrong way. I know that nuisance species can be removed without replacement.
Yep, and this is on our nuisance species list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an arborist, but everyone says that's what it is, so yeah.
So they can be removed without replacement at all, without requiring a replant, and it's a free permit to do that. So I know that.
But it's on the city's right-of-way, the city's.
Right, and you're actually responsible for the maintenance of trees in your abutting right-of-way.
Okay.
Large trees that have a potential hazard and public safety issue, you can always contact Public Works Operations. They'll take a look at those kind of trees that may have an impact on, if they went down or they were causing trouble, may have an impact on community safety. But individual smaller trees, it's not something that they do. That would be up to the property owner.
And those trees are just very highly invasive.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
you do not need, feel free to take them down. There's no replacement of those.
Yep.
When all this came down, the Public Works was involved in this quite a bit. So you are planning, what function does each of those departments have in this whole issue?
I think Public Works and the NRC. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm not able to talk. Public Works and the NRC sort of coordinated to kind of kick off this project and make these kind of decisions and determinations. Planning, because we handle the tree permits ourselves, Public Works doesn't usually handle street tree permits. They handle like sidewalk repairs and different things like that. So planning is involved insofar as we oversee the tree permitting process. And each of these different pieces, a different department kind of owns, so we all coordinate with each other when these bigger questions happen, like sidewalk buckling and that sort of thing. But as far as determining the policies and the codes that need to change, we cooperated with Public Works and to determine where in the code these updates should take place to kind of enable this policy to move forward. But as far as I am aware, NRC and Public Works were kind of the main drivers of this. And it's planning's job to kind of make it kind of move through the process now.
So it sounds like Public Works then would be responsible for the physical part of the sidewalk repairs, replacement, grinding, whatever, and planning would be more in what kinds of trees, that sort of thing.
Correct.
How about that? I got it right. Dennis?
Could you go over the fee? You alluded to like 361 or something. Can you explain that one more time?
Yes, the fee in lieu of replanting is per mitigation tree that's determined you need. So if you have a tree if you have a tree that's buckling the sidewalk, it doesn't matter how thick it is, you can remove it. And if you choose not to replant, you pay a fee in lieu of $361 per tree you have to plant but choose not to.
Okay.
$361 is based on a fee that changes annually based on the consumer price index is how we factor our.
So in the following spring, when this comes into effect, will that fee be still the same, or is it a variable fee?
It will likely change for 2023, I will
So it may not be 361.
Right, but currently it's 361.
Thank you.
I got a question from someone far away, Dee Dee, she sent it to me. She's watching. She wants me to ask, are the new sidewalks alternatives to go around trees? Brick options like the Rose Museum did this on the Pine Oaks?
Sure, I can answer this one.
Okay.
It's really a conversation with Public Works. This is my memory, the permit grant program doesn't pay for that. But if someone wanted to voluntarily do that, they would work with Public Works to make sure that any modified sidewalks still met ADA.
Thank you.
Steve, go ahead.
So I have a question regarding trees that buckle sidewalks in city parks.
Okay.
Is there going to be some repairs to those in any foreseeable future?
Is there a specific park you're thinking of?
Park Place.
Okay, so a sidewalk that abuts a city park, is that the question?
It's trails, paved trails within the park.
Okay, that would be a conversation with Kendall Reed in our Parks Department. Because if there is the question of, I don't want to speak for the Parks Department or the Building Department or accessibility, so I don't have any of those hats. But if there's an issue about accessibility, I would first direct it to the Parks Department first, and then they can come to us and we can let them know if there's any any planning permit that's needed.
Okay.
If you have a tree in a park and the Parks Department chooses not to replace it, do they have to pay a fee in lieu of?
Potentially, yes. There's also a separate piece about public trees. There's a policy about noticing when public trees are removed, because it's a city asset, and those go to the city commission when they're over a certain size. If it is a park that received planning approval, so like Singer Hill Park is a natural park that's a lot older, but I'm just going to say Wesleyland Park, because I know that went through planning approval and that had a landscape plan. And so if that tree was a required tree, they would need to replace it.
Any other questions?
I have
Oh,
something.
I'm sorry, John.
That first picture
You're so
with
far
the
away
tree.
over there.
Yeah, the tree and that sidewalk buckling up, that's in my neighborhood. Walked by there many times. And they have gone through and they are taking the trees out and they're redoing the concrete through there. I think that falls outside the neighborhood. It might be a city thing because it's a wide walk area through there. But that was the next picture where the thing was coming up. Yeah, it was Oh, well, I always walk in the street because it's such a mess. The sidewalks are all over the place.
Right.
Could you go back to the very first slide?
This is the
Of
first
this?
slide, but
See you next one.
There, that's the one. Let's see.
That's my place.
that's along, I think it's
Glen Oak, isn't it?
Glen Oak, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to jog my memory here.
Just west of Beaver Creek Boulevard. We pull out on-
Maybe in the next slide. Yeah, there, let's see. The last part they're encouraging, the last couple of sentences, it refers to a right-of-way with a dedication covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that?
So right now, we have, if people, if property owners wish to remove a street tree, they can actually claim a tree in their front yard that's within 10 feet of the right-of-way as a street tree, but they have to record that as a dedicated street tree with the county and then submit that paperwork back to us to make sure that it's recorded so that we have a record of it being a street tree so that it continues to kind of be overseen through the street tree process. And so, because property owners, trees just on private property, unless they're in a natural resources overlay district, tree removals aren't regulated. And so a street tree like this would be covenanted so that it would be protected by the street tree code going forward.
So then, following up with that, if the property changes hands and the new owner, say 10 years later, how would they know that they couldn't cut that tree down?
That covenant is when you sign and you buy your property, you look at it. It's all the easements and covenants when you're at the office doing all your signing, that comes up and it's part of your signing documents.
Okay, and then I think that's my last question. Is there any consideration given to heritage trees?
So Heritage Tree is a separate program.
But if you had a heritage tree that was infringing on a sidewalk,
I don't think we have one in a 3-foot planter strip. And that'd probably be a conversation. If there was a heritage tree and it was a 3-foot sidewalk, the city commission approves heritage trees. I'm sure they'd have this conversation of, is this a tree we want to approve as a heritage tree? How's the health? What's its long-term? So I doubt any heritage tree would ever qualify that's in a 3-foot planter strip just because of its constrained state. But that's a question the city commission and the natural resource committee, when they recommend approval, can ask about what's its long-term health.
Okay,
Dee Dee has to add, she just wrote me.
go ahead.
She said, the heritage tree in Park Place should be protected. Please mention that they have to be protected. Let this, also, she said the Atlas cedars are at risk by the playground, on the playground trail. So she wanted to mention that. I know Emily has a question online as well, eventually when it's her turn. Right, and I think those park questions are not necessarily related to this, but yeah, this would be just for public right-of-way trees in 3-foot planter strips. Okay.
Will?
I have a question about the dedicated covenant. Does that only apply to 3-foot? So if you had a 6-foot strip and you decided to plant something in your yard?
This aspect of the code isn't changing. It's actually currently in effect. But I did want to state that even though some things are changing, we're still encouraging an overarching policy of replacement or dedication of another existing tree. And so, yeah, that aspect is in effect regardless of your planting strip size. It covers current trees in your front yard within 10 feet of the right of way. Yeah.
So our code today, if you can't today, not the new code changes, if you remove a tree, and usually you're removing a tree because there's a mobility hazard, you have to replant another tree. If you do not want to replant that tree in the planter strip, we have accepted a covenant tree, either one you plant or one that you put a covenant on that's existing to provide the shade, grow up, do the things that a street tree does. What we're saying here with these code changes, and when you're in a 3-foot planter strip, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do the covenant, and you don't have to do the replanting.
Okay, I must say that I'm very proud of our CIC people for bringing up planning commission and city commission caliber questions on these issues. You guys really think hard about these things. They're showing an awfully lot of concern. I'm really, as the chair, I'm proud of the whole group. So thank you very much. I guess that'll do it.
And I encourage you to go on the website and you can register comments and that sort of thing through there. And thank you so much for your questions. They've been great.
Okay, thank you.
Emily was on.
Emily had a question.
There was one question from Zoom land.
Emily on Zoom.
I'm sorry.
Emily.
Go ahead.
Yeah, not a question so much as just a follow-up on the inquiry about native species. And I am part of the NRC, however, I wasn't part of the process that kind of year-long process to make suggestions to the code. However, that was a question that I had for Jude when we went over this at our last meeting. And there's actually, if you look at that big document, I think it's, you have so many wonderful trees on there, Jude. Thank you so much for putting this together. And there was like a little asterisk next to the native species. And there is a handful. I think there's like at least half a dozen on there. And when I asked that question before, Sam Wolf had responded, because this was new information to me, and I was curious about this as well, because, native species in a lot of respects seem easier, but I guess as street trees, there's additional considerations, such as their tolerance of pollution, and a lot of them just don't seem to thrive in such narrow planting strips. They have a bigger root base than a lot of the trees that were on that list. So I think that it seems to be as many species on that list as there should be, I guess, in terms, and there's size considerations as well, species that have a lot of lower foliage, get in the way when people are driving in cars, and, if there's foliage, I think in that bottom, 8 to 10 feet, then it's an obstruction of view. So a lot of the native species that we have that perhaps would do well in a 3-foot wide planter strip tend to be ones that also have foliage that would need to be trimmed a lot in that bottom 8 to 10 feet.
Anybody else anywhere out there? Okay, that'll do it for that subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
About a month ago, I was up at the farmer's market, and I wasn't getting along as well as I am now with my hip. And so I begged a group of people that were there if I could use one of their chairs to sit for a while. And it just happened to be the Village at the Falls group. And they got to talking to me. The more they talked, the more I became interested. And I thought, this is a great subject for the CIC. So tonight we have Diane Peterson from the Village at the Falls to tell us all about that program.
So is this on, or do I need to turn it on?
If you want to push the bottom button, make sure it's lit up. Is it?
It was, so now it's on. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Bob for sitting down at our booth at the farmer's market, because that was a really rare opportunity. Some of you are familiar faces to me because back in 2019, I came before the CIC to introduce Village at the Falls when we were kind of in development still. And here I am, back again, 4 years later, almost, from the time we started planning, because right as we were ready to launch, COVID hit. And so we had a little delay, but we've been up and running for about a year now. We started servicing our members in October 1st of 2021. So we had our first year anniversary party, and I am very pleased to announce that we now have 30 members and 57 active volunteers. And it's been really just completely blown my mind at how successful we've been. We had really very hopefully thought we'd maybe get 20 members in our first year. So we've already exceeded that, and we're well on the path to more. So Village at the Falls, a lot of people ask, is it a place? And no, it is not a place. We're a group of volunteers who have kind of gathered together. Village model is something that's about 20 years old. It started in Boston with a bunch of neighbors who were aging and didn't want to leave their homes. And so they formed a group of like-minded volunteers and members, and the rest is history. There are hundreds of villages throughout the United States and internationally. And in Portland right now, there are 11 very active villages, older than we are, and doing very well, providing services to our older neighbors. So Village at the Falls, the model is kind of what you guys all probably knew from back in the day, where neighbors take care of their neighbors. So if somebody, like one of our members, fell and broke a hip, and so back in the good old day, before everybody had 2 jobs and children, and they pulled into their garage and the garage door went down and that was all you saw of them, we all took care of each other. Well, that kind of doesn't happen so much anymore. So when our member fell and broke her hip, I took her to the hospital. She had walked on it for 2 weeks. I took her to the hospital, and I sat with her in the hospital and made sure she was well taken care of. And then when she was released from rehab and came home, we helped her with her cleaning and her cooking and her dog care, because that was very important to her. And little things like that neighbors aren't really maybe so much able to do anymore. So we're a village in the kind of old village model of neighbors helping neighbors age more successfully in their own homes. So what we do, we are 100% volunteer, and what we do is we provide services as we age and our vision goes. Driving becomes an issue. So our biggest request is usually for rides to doctor's appointments and grocery store and things like that. And we have 11 amazing drivers. And then as we age, our friend pool diminishes. And so what we're planning, in addition to services, is community. Try to re-engage and get people back involved in community. So to that end, we have events. We've got tomorrow, actually, I just started this, so we'll see how successful it is, but we're gonna have Movie Tuesday. For $5.95, you can go to the Regal Cinema and see a movie. And so now I have 16 people signed up for that. So you can tell that this is kind of a need that we saw in the community that we are filling. It is a member paid membership. It's $45 a month or $495 a year. And the information is on this sheet in your brochure that I've handed out. As you guys know, even though we're volunteers, even volunteer organizations cost money. We have a software program that we use that manages all of our volunteers and matches them up with whatever members' services are being requested. And printing and all those fun things just cost money. And then we have to have fun events. So one of the things that we're having December 1st is our second annual holiday potluck. And we'll have prizes and fun things to help our members celebrate the holidays. Because, as we know, according to the National Institute on Aging, the health risks of prolonged isolation, hello COVID, are equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Social isolation and loneliness have been estimated to shorten a person's lifespan by as many as 15 years. It's not a good thing to be all by yourself and to be lonely. So one of the fun things that we do is compassionate phone calls, just to make sure that our members are doing okay and are thriving as much as humanly possible in this great, not post-COVID time. With COVID, I think it really just exacerbated everything and has made our village even more relevant. So that's who we are. We're a 501c3, we're totally nonprofit, and we are going to be relying on our memberships and grants. So why I'm here is because if we don't get the word out, people who need us aren't gonna know we're here. And so in your neighborhoods, you've probably got people who who might fit this kind of a profile. And we would love to be able to help them. We've got 57 volunteers that are just dying to be put to work. They love what they do, they love our members, and they're really good at what they do. So let's put more of them to work, and let's find some people out there that need us. Oh, the other thing is too, we are a membership by fee, but we also have subsidies, and it's on a sliding scale based on income. So, if somebody is on a limited income and can't afford $45 a month, we can still help them. What I'm forgetting to say is for that $45 a month, you get 12 services. That could be 12 rides. That could be somebody coming in to help you with house cleaning. It could be somebody helping you pick up your medications. It could be somebody helping you pick up groceries, maybe helping in the garden. We just had on October 1st, it was the United Nations International Day of Older People, which is a long, silly name. But our event that day was a service to our community, and we chose 4 of our members who needed help in their garden, and 15 of our volunteers spread out and helped these people clean up their gardens. And we had a blast, and our members were very appreciative, and then we all went to Abby's and we had pizza. Does anybody have any questions? I'd love to answer.
Denise?
Hi, about how many hours a week do your volunteers work?
That's something that we just discussed because it's really hard to get people to record their hours. Right here, I hate paperwork, but probably our volunteers are about 5 to 10 hours a month, probably more. Drivers are maybe a little bit more, and that's just a guesstimate because every service is 2 hours. So that 12 hours, the member could actually get 24 hours a month of service. So that means, we've got, it's kind of the 80-20 rule. 20% of our volunteers still do 80% of the work. I think that's kind of true for every organization. So we've got some that do less and some that do more. Our drivers are really busy.
Linda?
You mentioned you were having a potluck December 1st. Where do you find places that allow you to do things like this for free? I mean, because we're always searching for places to have meeting spaces. How do you go about doing that?
That's a super good question, and if anybody has any place, let me know. Actually, we're at the Redland Grange, and they used to be much more affordable, but everybody has kind of upped their rates. So we're actually paying for the venues now. But that's a benefit to our members, so it's worth it. But yeah, Linda, that's a really tough one. I wish I had a magic bullet. I don't.
Real quick, I guess some people are having a hard time watching online, that it's not showing up online for some reason. Us live right now, just to let you know. Quick question. I know some older, people don't like giving up having a vegetable garden. Is it possible that you guys help with helping people have a vegetable garden still, or is it more maintenance on the yard, or? Okay.
It's up to the volunteer pool, and
Okay.
we've got a lot of really great gardeners. So,
Awesome.
oh, that's one of the things we're doing that's super fun too. Last year we had our first garden tour, and we had 8 gardens on our tour, and that was a fundraiser. And we have amazing gardeners in our group, and then we recruited some other gardens from Oregon City. So, it would just really be up to kind of the extent that they wanted and what our volunteers would be willing to do.
Thank you.
Our volunteers are fabulous.
Sounds
So
like it.
we only have one request that we haven't been able to fill yet, and that's somebody needs a ramp built. And that involves permits and fees, and we haven't quite taken on that project yet. But I also understand Home Depot may help, so I have to check that out. I just heard that yesterday.
Nice. Thank you.
Can't hurt to ask.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
I have a question. Do you have, to contact the liaison officer from the police department? Do they sometimes give referrals? Are you having some success that way, or?
We don't have a contact right now. Would love to have one.
Because the reach out from the police department has been quite impressive, and I think they do have an active person who accompanies the officers on, various things. And occasionally, I'm sure that they cross paths with somebody that would be benefited by services and probably not aware of your existence. And I was just wondering if have you had any?
No, we
chance of
haven't,
making
but
that
that's a great
happen?
idea, Dennis, yeah. And the fire department too, probably. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Just curious.
You don't happen to have any ideas of who that would be, do you?
Well, we do.
have Cookingham is,
Well, I'd have to find out. I'll,
Okay,
if I can find a name,
you're welcome. On the back of the brochure that you guys all got, we have a message phone. It's return calls within 24 hours. And then also our website and email are on here.
I think the officers changed in the last year.
Yeah, that's a problem. Our fire department contact changed, so, yeah.
Will, go ahead.
Do you have some extra brochures? I have some neighbors in our.
I would love to give you some extra brochures. I'd love to know about them. Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody has relatives or neighbors that would benefit from this service, it sounds like.
Oh, I didn't tell you. Okay, so we're Oregon City, Beaver Creek, and Redland. So within that area.
Anybody else, any questions? Carla?
And one more thing, sorry, I have a lot of questions today. I know that I've been kind of investigating different classes for groups in our neighborhood. My mom's a Tai Chi instructor, but she lives all the way in Southwest Portland. Is there a combination that possibly in the future, maybe someone you guys know that you could work with the Pioneer Center in terms of teaching classes? I'm trying to get them a Tai Chi instructor from North Portland if I can, but is there any kind of partnership that you would do possibly with the Pioneer Center, or?
We would love to have a partnership with Pioneer Center, absolutely.
Be awesome. No, they don't have one right now. Oh, now they do?
They do have a Tai Chi class.
They did, but they're having a hard time having a teacher, I guess, from what, okay, so that's, okay.
I walk out of the Pioneer Center with a walking group and I see their Tai Chi in there.
Yeah,
I think it's,
yeah,
You do
it's
it.
awesome.
yeah, but no, absolutely. We would love to have a partnership with the community center. I think that would be very
So if you-
beneficial.
If you have, let's say we had a relative that needed this kind of assistance, but they live in North Portland, would you be able to hook them up with the village over there?
That's a really good question, Bob. Yes, we do have 11 villages, and we would be happy to refer you to the North Stars in North Portland.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes. And Villages Northwest. So we've got kind of a unique, I'm sorry, if I'm taking up too much time, let me know. But we've got kind of a unique model in the Portland metropolitan area for the villages. We have kind of a hub and spoke. So Villages Northwest is the hub, and then 10 other villages, well, active villages. They're kind of the administrator, and they handle all of the taxes and fun things like that. And then the other hubs or the other spokes are the villages in the other areas. The only place we don't cover right now is like downtown Portland, which I don't really understand, but yeah, pretty much every place else we've got covered, except for we haven't done like out east to Gresham and that area. But if anybody wants to start one, Sherwood's another area we don't cover. If you know somebody in another metropolitan area, and also Manzanita started one.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. Really good questions, you guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate your
Anybody
time.
on Zoom with anything?
Emily still has her hand up, that might be from the street tree code.
No, that's a new one.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, I guess I just want to say thank you. It's just it's such incredible work that you're doing, and it's such important services to be providing so many people. So thank you. And I guess one question, like I've lived in Oregon City about 2 years now, and I was lucky enough to visit some of the open gardens at the event that you had earlier this year.
Oh, thank you.
So that was really fun. And yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see that in future years. But I guess my question is, like, do you come to neighborhood association meetings? Like, I don't know if I can talk to my neighborhood association to see if that's something that, you know, they'd be interested, because I don't know if other people in the neighborhood, like, know that you are doing all these incredible things. And it would be great to just give people an opportunity to learn more, if that's something that, I don't know if that would fall under one of your volunteer activities.
Oh, yeah. You know, I did all that. I came around to all the neighborhood associations that would have me before COVID, and then COVID. So I would love to come back and revisit and remind people that we're here and we're active, and sure, absolutely. If anybody wants
Thank you.
yeah, I'll bring cookies.
Okay, that's a good enticement.
You're in.
We'll sign you up.
Bribes.
Make a note of that, Steve.
Sorry, Steve, I didn't.
Steve's the chair of the Park Place Neighborhood Association, so. Any other?
Well, you came to one of our meetings.
We did, but that was then, and this is now. It's been a
Yeah, that's
while,
right.
and people have short-term memories. Yeah, no, we'd love to come out and talk, so probably
Thank
after
you.
the holidays now. Is everybody in person now, or are you all Zooming? Yeah, everybody's in
We've been
person.
in person. I don't think I'm.
I can Zoom.
We try and do it, we're doing hybrid meetings.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Diane.
Really, thank you so much for the
Like
opportunity.
she said,
Really
she's got
appreciate
lots of
it.
brochures, so if
Yeah.
you need some, raise your hand.
Does anybody want some more brochures? Will does. Okay, thank you.
And Will, is your mic on? There was a comment that someone couldn't hear you speak.
Now it is?
Okay, great.
There we go.
And then,
Okay, I meant to ask this earlier. We have a new couple that has moved to Oregon City recently, and they sent us an email that they're impressed with what they've seen in the city so far. I was wondering if Karen Hansis is on Zoom tonight?
Hi, this is Karen. I sure am. I'm really excited to be here and contribute. And I just, the community, the library, and just hearing tonight about the villages, what a great place to live. So thank you so much for the welcome. I really appreciate it.
Karen, where did you move from?
My husband and I just moved from Germany, actually. We worked for the Army as civilians, and we relocated to Oregon City to kind of find our forever house, put some roots down, and connect with the community and get to know folks. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to observe tonight.
Come join us. I've been in Oregon City for 18 years now, and I know that's not very long for Oregon City. But I've been volunteering with Village at the Falls for 4 years now, and I've met more amazing, wonderful, generous, caring, kind people in the 4 years than I met in the whole 14 years before then. So come join us, and welcome.
Yes, welcome to our community, Karen. Okay, OC 2040 comprehensive plan.
There we go, sorry. It's a dual screen thing.
Whoa.
But now I lost it on mine, but I'll just deal with it up here.
This is the OC 2040 comprehensive plan update with Aquilla Hurd-Ravich, our community development director. Welcome, Aquilla.
Thank you. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I tested positive for COVID a few days ago, so I'm isolating here and keeping that to myself. I'm not going to share with you all. So my main purpose tonight, excuse me, is to really just make sure that everybody's aware that OC 2040 is moving into the adoption phase, and the first public hearing will be in front of the Planning Commission next Monday, November 14th at 7 p.m. I'm sure that most of you have heard about OC 2040, but just a quick recap, that is, it will become our city's new comprehensive plan. And the visioning started for that in the fall of 2020 and went through the summer of 2021. And at the end of the visioning process, the City Commission adopted a vision, and that helped to inform the goals and policies that went into the comprehensive plan. So we used the visioning, we used the feedback that we got from the community, and we used some very good comments and feedback from the project advisory team to create goals and policies. And those were drafted and then shared with boards and committees in the kind of winter, spring of 2022. That would have been last January, February, March. And then we took that draft to Planning Commission and City Commission and revised and worked on it throughout the summer. And then in August, we finalized a draft and eventually received direction to move into the adoption phase. And so that's where we're at this point. And some notable changes from OC 2040, from our current comprehensive plan adopted in 2004 to OC 2040 are really the streamlined approach to our new comprehensive plan. We went from about 15 chapters to 4 chapters. And that, like I said, was influenced by a 30-member project advisory team. And this time there are some goals and policies that relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So the last thing I'd like to do, if I can do this, is I would like to share the OC 2040 website. So if you are interested, it is oc2040.com. And you can find lots of information through these tabs at the top. And it is updated with a legislative hearing notice and information on the side. And I think in here somewhere, you can always call this number and talk to me. I thought somewhere in here was my contact information. But if you have more questions or comments, feel free to email me or call me. And please feel free to go to the public hearing next Monday. That concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Doesn't look like we have any questions, Aquilla. Oh, or did you have a question,
I
Linda?
did. What is your phone number? Save me looking it up.
You asked the hard questions.
You always ask the hardest questions.
Sorry.
Okay, my phone number is 503-496-1553.
Thank you so much.
Any other hard questions for Aquilla?
I don't know a lot of numbers either.
Okay, Aquilla, well, thank you very much for the information.
Get well soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you're well.
Thank you.
Okay, the next, let's see here.
Let's see if I can do this.
The next subject is staff liaison updates.
Yes, that's me, and I'm going to share my screen. But you guys can't see it because I can't quite figure out why I'm dual monitored. So let's see if I can bring this back. Look at this. Okay. So I have a couple of links for some projects that, these should all be, I think, in the November E-Trail News. So if you've not signed up for the November E-Trail News, sign up. You get lots of great links the first couple days of each month. It's a chance to kind of get a snapshot of what's going on in the city, because the four times a year hard copy trail news has such a lead time. We often, you'll get the most up-to-date information with projects at the monthly e-trail news, and you can subscribe to that on the city's website under subscribe. So, or you can tell me you want to, and I'll subscribe you. Okay,
You
so
might mention too that the neighborhoods can contribute
yes.
articles to that Trailview News.
Yes, and right now, because our new communication manager is still not hired, we're kind of coordinating between Aaron Novinger at the library and Lisa Reskovich. But between the two of them, they'll find the right place for it. Okay, so I'm going to pass these postcards out. Feel free to take one. In fall of 2019, the city did what we call a travel survey. It's kind of a survey for employees and visitors and, really employees and visitors of downtown. And that's the area of kind of the central downtown, but also the north end all the way up to the Amtrak station and the end of the Oregon Trail, asking questions of how you got down there, what would make your trip easier, what barriers did you face, pedestrian, bike, parking. For the employee section, the first couple of questions are for employees. We have some questions about what incentives may help you take alternate modes like transit or bikes, or maybe park in different locations that could help open up parking spaces to visitors. As all good data is, we do it again, so we can compare year-over-year data. This is the next year, so we started this November 1st. This goes to December 31st. We did a pedestrian intercept survey on Saturday, and for about 4 or 5 hours on Saturday, we were out asking people to fill it out, because sometimes there's a bit of a survey bias when you only look at ones where people want to answer. So stopping people on the street is a great way of kind of getting information to people who wouldn't normally fill out a survey. So we have one more day of the intercept survey. But from here to December 31st, we encourage everybody who uses downtown or accesses downtown in any way to take the survey. There's a QR code in the back, and then there's a bit.ly link on the front. There's also the city has a project page that links to this survey on the main page of the planning department's website. And then you also see the link is on this as well. But you can feel free to send this to anybody that you know. What the neat part is we've been partnering with the Economic Development Department, so the Community Showcase program that happened during COVID, where participating restaurants were able to get advantage of gift certificates. So we have 40 $25 gift certificates we're going to give away for participants. And we're going to take that raffle drawing at the end of the year. And then we'll send out that the winning 40 people will get a coupon for $25 gift certificate to any participating restaurant downtown. And so we're working on getting restaurants to sign up to the program. So I'm excited about that. You can help Oregon City restaurants and tell us what you think. If you have a lot of specific comments, and some people are really excited because they have a lot of very specific comments, there is a general comment box area in the survey. So if on 14th Street between Washington and Center Street, there's a lip sidewalk and I feel dangerous, or there's an area in this part of downtown that there's low lights and I don't feel comfortable, feel free to put very detailed comments in the comment box, and we'll be able to aggregate those as well and pass them to the right department and be able to give the city commission some overarching trends that we're seeing. I think that's it. So we have lots, we'll have available up at all city offices. We'll have these available. Let's see what's next. The project page link to the tree code amendment that Jude mentioned is up there, so you can go straight to that project page link and review that information, as well as another page actually Jude put together, which is really great, talks about the emerald ash borer, as we're learning more about the invasive insect that's coming into Oregon and the havoc it can wreak on ash trees. Jude and the Natural Resource Committee have put together a pretty amazing page with lots of resources. So anybody that you know that may be suspect or think they may have an emerald ash borer or own an ash tree, have them go to that website and they can learn more about the emerald ash borer. Comprehensive plan update link from the previous presentation by Aquilla Hurd-Ravich. And Housing Choices Code update. As you recall, June of this year, the City Commission adopted code changes to comply with House Bill 2001. But there were some additional policy questions that still needed to be answered, but because of the timing and because those policy questions weren't absolutely needed by the June 30th deadline, the Planning Commission is looking at, we're calling it package number 2. They're going to kind of spend this winter reviewing different questions. Those relate to lot coverage and setbacks and high density residential, tiny homes and such. So if you want to, you can link to that page and learn more about the topics and the hearing dates for those topics. The Planning Commission will make recommendations to the City Commission, and the City Commission to determine if they agree with the recommendations and it's an easy code amendment, or this is a really complicated issue, let's make a work plan and dive into it a little more deeply. So that's what's going to be happening with the Planning Commission all this winter. So, and I'm the staff person for that still. And let's see, I have the updated through the end of October postcard. So that should be the end here. And we just got a new notice from Buell's that they're going up a little bit. I'll find out more about that, but this should be up to date. I know I have a couple new ones that just came in this week that I'll add to the November version when you see this in November. And that's all I have. So let me know if you have any questions.
Steve?
Just one more comment. Your postcards,
Yeah.
did they distribute them at the elevator?
Yes, actually, we were at the pedestrian intercept. I sat for 3.5 2.5 hours at the elevator on Saturday. And it was really great. We actually got people that don't have phones and took a hard copy survey because the pedestrian intercept, we had hard copy surveys for people too. So it was a really great. And we do have copies, and we will keep adding to them. We will let DOCA know when they run out. We have more.
I saw the spreadsheet on the bottom. I saw that, is that $783 for Elyville a credit, or is that what we're deficit in terms of?
Hold on.
Allowance.
Yeah. So, because we
Oh,
really
that should
cut,
be-
we really cut our postcard. We tried to do it quarterly to try to save if we could, you know, or every 3 months rather than every,
So did you have one, have you had a recent one, or was July your last one?
no, we've had more recent.
Then I missed it in my account, so I'll take a look.
Is that a credit or?
No, this is a debit, so that's the,
Wow, okay, that's how much we spent on.
so that would be an invoice bill.
We've been actively meeting, so I just
Okay,
was curious.
let me go back. I save them all, and I might have missed the Buell's. Other people pay, I keep them for my records, so I just need to make sure I saved it.
And just a curiosity, if we actually ended up with a credit, could we use that? Would we have to spend it right away? Because it would be nice to get some sandwich boards.
So you have this money to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And it can be used for sandwich boards, it can be used for postcards, it can be used for those things. What Linda did last year, remember, Kenema was running low, so Linda went to the CIC, and there was, money for neighborhood associations that are inactive. The CIC voted, and we were able to use that. So the same thing, if you have money in your allocation, you can do that. And there seems to be a fair amount of money because we have inactive neighborhoods. So you could come back at a future CIC meeting with your proposal, and the board could vote to use inactive neighborhood association.
That's awesome. So yeah, if I could get kind of like an accurate budget, and I can present it to my attorney, it'd be awesome.
I'll add that to me. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Anything on Zoom?
Hold on, let me. Not that I see.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Okay, let's see. We'll go into the roundtable now. We'll start with Linda at Kenema.
We are having our meeting November 17th, and we have them in person at the church, so we'll be having another one. And we did have a new young homeowner who brought about an idea. She wanted Halloween trick-or-treating in the Kenema neighborhood. And we said we would support her, and they did pretty good. They had about 20 kids would show up at different homes. Now, that's a lot of children in a neighborhood that only has 200 households. And she was very cute and clever. She had made signs that she put out to everyone, and we had she'd made little signs, the orange signs that people could put in, and to let people know that you were going to participate in trick-or-treating, we were just asked to turn on your street light. And so it was very successful, and we used our signboards, again, as like the day or so before, reminding people that we were doing this to repeat. So it was just nice to have that area. And some very cute areas. Some people made bat houses they put out rather than standard within the driveway. So anyway, it was good, and it was nice to have that.
Dennis?
Yes, the group that participated last year in the Halloween, whatever it was called, was taken over by, I think, the group downtown, and they had their showing and the competition at the Corner Street 14th, the food carts. And so a group of us in Kenema, 5 or so, took it upon ourselves to share the celebration of the Arch Bridge, the 100 years. And we created costumes for each of the 5 of us that represent a section of the bridge. And we participated in this sort of costume ball down on the 14th Street corner. And I can say it was a lot of fun for us personally, and always a challenge. And what, the best part, of course, is that we won.
Again.
And I only bring this up really because so our prize was $100 at the Blue Ox axe throwing facility over on 12th Street, which now we have a chance to like offer it up as a raffle within the community of our little neighborhood. So we're kind of delighted in that, and it was sort of a fun for all, and we had a good time participating in it. Anyway, that was to be shared.
Well, 2 years in a row, you guys are on a run. You're gonna have to get bigger and better every year.
Well, Dennis is responsible for all
The
this.
first year it was a house, this was a bridge. How much bigger can you get?
Well, last year, just to bring you all up to speed, last year we took on, each of us donned an issue that was relative to our neighborhood, respectful of like historic preservation and that, and each one of us were a component of like some of the thing that seems to be an ongoing issue within our neighborhood. And so we each dressed according to issues that seemed to be in conflict. So we were, to just abbreviate that, was like we had wraparound porches, we had like standing, let's see, we had,
5 retaining wall.
retaining walls, we had like a skylight, and I forgot, a double hung window. So we were well represented in terms of like concerns that we care about within our neighborhood.
Okay, Dennis, thank you. Caulfield, John.
We're taking notes, we got tequila before I get into this one. A lot going on. First of all, the first time I meant to mention, many months ago, is the laundromat is done. They did all that great work. Hopefully they have no problems for a while. The place is packed all the time. So it's obviously something that's really, really missing in the neighborhood. I think that's really neat. We're having our first in-person meeting on the 29th of this month. We'll be at the bus barn again. There will be elections at this meeting. They're really necessary now because the vice chair equals secretary for the last whole bunch of years. She's stepping back. She's doing 2 jobs. People aren't getting involved. They all want to be involved. They give us all the information, come to the meetings, give us all the email, and they never show up. She's pretty discouraged over it. And so she's stepping back. You know, at first with COVID, I kind of, let's wait and see what happens. And of course, COVID went on and on and on and on. And so then we started doing Zoom meetings that never were very successful in our neighborhood. So that wasn't real good. And hopefully at the meeting, we'll have some neighbors step up. They want to be a part of this position because I have to resign also. My wife worked up north in Bellevue for a whole lot of years, and I was down here. I was working in that, and that's here 6 or 10 days a month maybe. She's been home for 3 years. Now Boeing says you're coming back to the office.
Wow.
So I'm going to sell and liquidate everything, go up there for maybe 2 to 4 years until she retires, and we'll get a small place in Montana or something, pay cash or something, just, 49 years is time we settle down a little bit. So we're going to liquidate everything and get them down small. So when we retire, we have all we need and everything else is gone. So hopefully I can come back next month to tell you what happened to the meeting, but I'll be around probably for just a few more months, just depending on how the house sells and how long they'll let her stay down here.
Well, John, we'll certainly miss you, that's for sure.
Yes, well.
Yeah.
Elyville, Carla.
Well, we met last September. We had Parks come, technically about Mountain View Cemetery, and gave us an update on the vet memorial there in terms of where it's at, that it's progressing and smoothing out, and that they're kind of heading that direction. That someone had mentioned about wanting an outlet between Newell Creek Canyon and Mountain View Cemetery, and of course, our parks are against that, as well as we had feedback from someone at St. John the Apostle, because they do a lot of memorials, and having foot traffic while someone's, doing a memorial or a burial would be a bit invasive to the family or people coming to visit. So other than that, we've got a great update that they're planning on doing a memorial bench possibly for Karen Morey. long term, which would be cool. And then we had someone bring up the history of Elyville again in terms of coming up the hill and what it was like for the pioneers coming up, and a little bit about that as well. We also, other than that, we were waiting to have a meeting. We're gonna have a steering in December, and then we're gonna have a general meeting in January. I actually went trick-or-treating this year around Hood Street, which historically would have been original Elyville. And it was pretty cool that there was a lot of people doing fun things there, which was really fun. There was something else I was gonna mention as well. Public Works is allowing us to plant native seeds in our tree grates, like I said, and we're gonna do poppies on some barriers, like right by Division Street, which is really cool, that we've been asking for years, and it's happening. It's really exciting. And then we're gonna do an election in January, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing here. What else was there? Something else, if I can remember, but yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Carla.
Sure.
Hillendale, Sarah? Sarah
Oh,
was?
I'm sorry, didn't hear you, Bob. Okay, so we're limping along. We're not down and out yet, but we're not quite doing the things that we want to do. We tried to do a candidate forum in October, and we were working on that, and then we just didn't get enough candidates for the night we were trying to do it. And I believe it was Park Place that was doing better, only I didn't have a link to their meeting, and I don't know what happened to that. So I missed out on all of that personally, and we didn't get to host it. So October was a bust for Hillendale, but we are having a steering committee meeting. We moved it to I think it's the 15th of this month. So we're gonna meet up and see what we can do for the next time around. We're not doing great, but we're still at it. So there it is.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. McLaughlin, Denise.
So we just had a meeting last Thursday, general meeting, and we had a presentation from the police department of the stats for the past 3 years, and not surprisingly, there was a marked decrease in traffic-related calls in 2020, and an increase in homeless problems calls in 2020. Mm-hmm. That was what stood out to me. We had a presentation from the parking study that was done in September of 2021. There was a lot of information. I'm still kind of digesting all of it. I have questions. The big takeaway for me from that was we have a specific area in our neighborhood that is being really affected by parking from Corner 14, OCB, Abernathy, Green, et cetera. People go up the hill on Washington and then they park in our neighborhood. And this has caused some real problems for the people that live there, because they'll come home from work with their groceries that they've bought and they'll have to park 5 blocks away to park. So they're trying to help solve these problems, and there's a parking permit plan that it's on the website. I have some questions about that. I think you have to get a sign that says permit required to park here. I think there might be an option of having a 2-hour parking limit and or parking permit. I'm not sure. I was kind of fuzzy about that. So that would be my question about that. And the other interesting thing was remember the statue that was on 7th and Center Street, or the two people that are back to back and looking it up like they're looking up at aliens? Well, it got hit by a car, and so the Arts Commission wants to replace that. So they were asking for for input on that. I suggested, Will's dog. Some of you may have met Thunder.
Sooner or later, you will see me somewhere
He's
walking around
a
with my
huge
two
dog.
dogs. I have one 120-pound Newfoundland, Bernese Mountain Dog, and the other a little retriever, which
Little.
most people would think is a big dog. And the big one will just lie in the middle of the street and refuse to move. And so she thought that would be funny.
I think he'd be a great bench.
Yeah, he would be.
So, I'm happy to report that we had 56 trick-or-treaters at our house.
Very good.
But to be fair, we're just a couple blocks down from the Halloween house, the Madison graveyard. So we get a lot of trick-or-treaters, and it's really fun. And it's my favorite holiday.
I don't have
That's
much to add to that, so.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anything with the police department. I mean, there were a lot of mental health extra calls, and although the traffic calls were down, he said that the driving has gone, people are making really terrible decisions as far as driving. And that they've seen a market uptick in that.
Yeah.
But, and then petty theft was up, but not, like car theft. Just, lock your stuff up, folks. Make sure that you do a perimeter check at 9 o'clock every night, and, but that, it wasn't, historically, it hasn't really gone up, so.
I don't want to discourage you, but your parking issue may not be, if you go to 2-hour parking, or you go to
I don't
permit
think that's
parking,
gonna solve it for this particular area.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they're still gonna have the same problem.
well, the problem is that there's no enforcement after 5 o'clock.
One of the things they're talking about changing is having the enforcement increase from 8 AM to 7 PM. And then also on Saturdays, so that's gonna help.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
good, that's good news.
Yeah, the information they gave us had, they did a survey for downtown, which would be mostly Main Street, and then also the Bluff area, and I think that would be like Washington Street and up. I think that's what that included. So that includes our area of concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Park Place, Steve.
It's been a very busy month with meetings and special meetings and all of the Park Place concept plan or Park Place crossing. So we had a general meeting October 17th, which included, we planned it the month before, and the day after we had planned to have the candidates forum. The city commission decided to hold their meeting on the 17th. So we lost 3 of the candidates. But we did have 3 that came and made their presentation, and that worked out very well. We also had a presentation from the fire department for emergency planning, and our Sergeant Pagano gave an update on the police. So our next meeting will be November 21st. It's a steering committee, and it'll be just Zoom. So the meeting that we had in October was a hybrid meeting. I think I got it working, but apparently some people did not get the information on how to get in. So we'll have to work on our communications. And our next general meeting won't be until February. So that's what we have.
Thank you, Steve. I have Emily Lisborn in attendance, is that right?
She's on.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, sorry.
Emily, do you have anything on Rivercrest for us?
You know, we haven't met since last meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is for November 17th at 5:30 at the Pioneer Center. We had a hard time finding a venue initially. The church is now, that we used to host at, is now requiring $400 event insurance. So that was not in our budget. But the Pioneer Center was very gracious, and the timing worked out beautifully. So we had to tweak the normal meeting time. So for anyone watching who wants to come, it's at 5:30 instead of 6 at the Pioneer Center. We'll have elections there, a general business meeting, and then we sent out a survey like via postcard and then via email next door on Facebook, and we've had about 30 responses so far, and really, really good stuff. Like we put a lot of multiple choice on there, but then we also had a section at the end where people could just write in comments, and we've had some really interesting questions that we're going to be discussing at our next meeting. And then because everyone else did trick-or-treater updates, we had 60 or so trick-or-treaters this year, so that was exciting, definitely more than last year. Maybe because people are not so worried about COVID now, I'm guessing, but yeah, that was nice to see.
Thank you, Emily. Next would be Commissioner Adam Morrill.
Thank you, and I'm glad to hear that your event on October 17th went well. And so yeah, it was an odd, as you noted, it was a busy month for us, and because Commissioner Smith had his parent-teacher conferences, that was the date that was decided upon. So I'm glad to hear that it went well. And as I just mentioned, our October agenda was largely dedicated to hearing the land use appeal for the Park Place crossing appeal.
That also impacted our meeting because we had people that had to go to that meeting, and so.
Yeah, thank you.
Was there an answer on that yet, or is that still being?
It was denied.
It was denied, okay.
Yes. And after the mayor had changed her mind, it was a unanimous denial. But there is still work to go into that as the developers will probably be going to the Land Use Board of Appeals. And so it's my understanding that the neighborhood association is going to be ready for that. And so, so that was the big part of our October agenda. A few other big things have recently happened. We are now a 5-person commission for the first time since April. And so we swore in Mike Mitchell, who many of you know, he's vice chair of the Planning Commission. I don't know if he's officially resigned yet, but he was or is the vice chair of the Planning Commission and is going to make a great commissioner, and I'm really excited to work with him there. And then lastly, at our last city commission meeting last week, we had a discussion about how we're going to move forward appointing members to the Planning Commission and Historic Review Board. You'll remember way back in the May primary, I had pushed a charter amendment that would change the way that we do that, because before it was just the mayor, and so now the whole commission gets to have a voice on that. And so we had a discussion as to how exactly we want to do the logistics for that. And so those first round of appointments are going to be coming here in a few months. So I'm really excited that the voters passed that, and we'll have some more checks and balances there. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Well, comes around to me. I have a couple of things already set up for the December CIC meeting, which you might be interested in. I have the people from they're developing the Abernathy Green / Rossman landfill development coming to give us the latest information. I actually saw an article in the paper recently that the city so far has turned down their applications for money from the Urban Renewal Commission, I think it was. But they're having a little bit of trouble financially, which is understandable. I mean, it's a huge development. And then I'm also having Raymond Rendelman, the reporter from the Oregon City News, to come visit us, and I asked him to tell us what he expects from us if we send in what I call a letter to the editor, or whatever, what kind of information he likes to see and also confirmation of facts. I know that when I've sent him articles, he is very, very careful to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row and all the facts are there before he will print anything. So he's very comprehensive or conscientious about that. Let's see. Then I have a question to Christina. Our primary purpose here is land use issues. And I get a lot of land use issues on the email, and some of them are in areas that don't have active neighborhoods. How can I be assured that those land use issues are passed on to be reviewed by the CIC when we are legally required to do that? I've got a couple here. One of them is the 901 Main parking lot layout modifications, and the other one is a transmission tower telecom equipment. And one is in the south end, and I think the other one is in Two Rivers, yeah. Now, I don't know if those are two things that would normally come to their neighborhood association, or how can I tell?
Sure, I think those are two different things. If something requires a neighborhood meeting, so in our chapter 1750, which describes when neighborhood meetings are required, we have specific things. Any type 3 process that would go to the planning commission, like a conditional use or a master plan or a variance, needs a neighborhood meeting. Some major site plan and design reviews need it. Minor site plans, smaller projects don't. Subdivisions do, and partitions don't. So we have a list of the ones that do and the ones that don't. So if you have a project that requires a neighborhood meeting and you don't have an active neighborhood, you have to come to the CIC. Actually, you have to come to the CIC. So that's why every once in a while you get people presenting, is because they don't have an active neighborhood. The different one, what Bob gets, is the list of where this is a public comment related to a notice. So notices are sent to neighborhood association contacts via the transmittal, when we send out the electronic one. And if you have provided our GIS, an actual mailing address, then they have mailing address related to your association. So those get mailed out. I think, Bob, we send, as CIC chair, we make sure to send you all the transmittals, so you get all the emails. So anybody can do public comment. Those are the ones that are on our website. So those are ones that either have had the neighborhood association meeting or they don't require. So 901 Main is a very minor site plan, so that's excluded. And the transmission tower probably is one that doesn't require it either. So it's just the public notice.
Okay. So I recall here, maybe it's been a couple of years now, where a developer, I wish I could remember which one it was. Anyway, they were putting forth a development, and sometime during either the planning commission or the city commission process, it was brought up that they had not brought it up before a neighborhood association because it didn't exist, it was inactive.
Was this before we changed our code to require CIC to be the neighborhood?
No, because the CIC requirement has been in for years. Look, this was only a couple of years ago. I'll have to see if I can find out what that was.
Yeah, I mean, that's a one-off. I don't know the story of that one, but when we do pre-application conference, we say, because I write these, so we say, you are not subject to a neighborhood meeting. You are located in this neighborhood association, or you paste the contact information. And if there is none, we say, CIC, contact Bob LaSalle. So that's usually our response for
Okay,
pre-application
so the
conferences.
process is in place that it would pass on to the CIC.
Yeah, when you're an inactive
They would
neighborhood
be
association.
notified that they have to come to
And
CIC.
so if you recall the annexation on Rose Road, the gentleman came in this last
Oh, yeah,
spring.
yeah.
So he's in South End. Annexations require neighborhood meetings, so he came here. And that met his requirement. And that was actually a requirement for a complete application, which he finished. That was the last thing he needed before he finished his annexation application.
Well, I just wanted to be sure that we are given the opportunity to fulfill our obligation. as the
Yeah,
CIC.
offline, let's talk about the one. I'd have to do some research on that specific one, but we're in place for the pre-application notes say if you need it and who you go to.
So we're good there. Okay. That's all I had. Does anybody else have any information that they'd like to pass on? Yeah,
I
Carl?
met someone from Hazeldale, and they may want to establish a neighborhood association, so I will keep you posted.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And
Denise has something.
good luck to all the candidates out there. Denise, yes.
I forgot about one thing that we talked about at our meeting. Will pointed out that there's a very vulgar sign on Monroe between 6th and 7th. It's in front of a private residence, and it's a big banner. And the neighbors across the street asked them to remove it because they have children. And it's a very rude, vulgar sign. So we asked about it at our meeting. Denise said because of the freedom of speech rules for the state, there's not anything they can do about it. But I remember Dee Dee mentioning something about a code for banners. And I said, don't we have a banner code? And so she looked it up, and banners that are 12 square feet or greater are not allowed in residential properties. So she was going to send that information to Kersey. I forget his name.
Ryan Kersey.
Ryan, yep. So that was hopefully a win. Hopefully. Yeah.
You know, I must say, it's a pretty sad state of affairs
It's the finger.
when in the United States, our laws allow that kind of thing to take place.
That's what I said, but anyway.
Pretty pitiful. Anybody else, anything else? This meeting is adjourned.